Okay, here I go tackling another heavy conversation that is just filled with confusion. This is just totally filled with confusion. I want to tell foundational Black Americans to not let anyone that's not foundational Black American or does not identify with foundational Black American get involved or discuss with you about what you decide to be. Right? Right? So don't let anybody, right, discuss to you about what you are. You were born in America? No, you're not FBA. If you wasn't here in if you can't trace your family back to the 1800s, to the census, and trace yourself back to slavery, you are not FBA and you do not qualify for reparations. Point blank, period. You are not FBA. I'm really not going to argue with you. If you can't trace your family back to the census in the 1800s, in America, you will not qualify for reparations. It's nothing to talk about. End of story. Is there anybody in your family that was here back to the 1800s, your mother or your father? David, if your mother or your father was here and you could trace them back to the 1800s census, and then if one of them, then you would qualify for half. But if not, and you're trying to claim FBA, you're what we call a tether. Your father was born in Nigeria. Okay, and where's your mother from? Where's your mother from? Because your father definitely don't qualify. Where's your mother from? Can you trace your family back to slavery in America? I really think you're trolling, though. But no, you're not FBA. And you're not FBA unless FBA say you're FBA. My family traced back here. If I say you're not me, you're not me. You can't say you me. Let's get that part straight. If I say what I am and what we are, and you're not that, you cannot tell me that you're me. Just like I can't go and say I'm born in Africa and I'm a Zulu. Can't do it, okay? Now, I'm not going to waste my time talking to you unless you can show me a family member that traces back to slavery. Then we'll let you argue with the United States government when we get reparations, which they will deny you because you will not be able to prove that your family was here during slavery. And it'll be point blank, period. You will be denied because the lineage we're tracing is for our reparation for slavery, and you're not due a penny. As a matter of fact, we probably could trace some of your family back to maybe people that sold slaves. Because Nigerians were involved in this. You might have been the slave sellers. Your family in Nigeria might have been the ones that sold slaves to the Europeans. Yeah. I don't know, but you're trolling. So that's what you do. Come back tomorrow, because I don't got time for. I don't got time for. I don't got time. Come back tomorrow. Yeah, come back tomorrow. Let me get all this nonsense out of here. See, we're going to break this down and get to the facts. We're not going to do no arguing. Anybody that's really against what we're doing, they got to come back tomorrow. We're going to stand on what we're going to stand on, the same way everybody else stands on what they got to stand on. I can't go to Jamaica and say I'm a Jamaican. I can't go to Kenya and say I'm a Kenyan. I can't go to Nigeria and say I'm a Nigerian. Unless I can prove my father, my mother is a Nigerian. And then I would be considered half a Nigerian. I still wouldn't be considered the same as someone whose both parents is from Nigeria. We're going to get into it. For those of you who are FBA, you say, I handled that. This is how you handle that. Do not argue with people that are not FBA. Right? Don't argue with them. Because if you're trying to get reparations, you're trying to get it from the United States government. And some tethers and people like that, they don't got the money. So at what point you trying to get reparations, you're going to argue with somebody that don't have the money, that don't have no power, that don't have no political power over here, that don't make no decisions, that won't be the ones that deal with the reparations anyway. Stop doing that. Stop arguing with people that have no say-so. Because you'll be arguing with somebody that ICE is going to deport. To be honest. You're wasting your time. The back and forth with Africans and Caribbeans, stop. You could be spending that energy building with each other. And let them people deal with what they deal with. They are brothers and sisters from a distance, but they got to mind their own business. The Africans are really out of line because the Africans mind their own business, have their own business, and they not really good brothers and sisters by intruding in our business, yet keeping their business to themselves. They got their tribes and their various countries that they stand on. And so for you African brothers and sisters that come and jump into our business with our lineage and all that, y'all foul. You're foul. It's not enough that you got your own lineage and your own culture in Africa. Then you see your brothers and sisters trying to develop something, and you still got that same energy. That's probably the reason those of us that do have African blood is over here. And probably the reason you're fighting each other in Africa. I know why they're getting into discussion. They're getting in discussion because y'all talking to them. A discussion is two-way, right? Stop talking to them, block them. If they want to talk to somebody, let them talk to Tariq. Other than that, the rest of us, why would you talk to them? How can somebody get into discussion with me unless I discuss with them? The more you discuss with them, the worse it is with your case you're trying to raise to America. We're trying to raise a case to America. I'm not going to argue with nobody in the Sudan, no Nigeria, that don't have my money. When we here and we picked cotton and we did all this work in America, we did it for America, and America owes money. Africans don't owe me no money for picking cotton. So at what point, okay, if you went to a job and you had a paycheck you were supposed to pick up for $2,400, and your boss supposed to give you your paycheck for $2,400, would you go argue with another employee over your paycheck, or would you go talk to the boss about your paycheck? Why would you get into discussion with one of the employees about your paycheck? They can't give you a paycheck. And the African brothers and sisters and the Caribbean brothers and sisters is another employee that can't give us our paycheck. So y'all stop talking to them, because the Africans need to stand up and get their own reparations for all the money they paying the French in West Africa and all exploitation going on with them. So nobody want to argue with nobody that's in the Congo working and letting people from the Dutch exploit them, let the French exploit them, let the British exploit them, let the Chinese exploit them. Why would I talk to them? Africans not even getting their reparations for what they stole from Africa. I wouldn't talk to no African about reparations. I would advise them to go home and control their natural resources and mind their business. I don't like no conversation on the internet that we wouldn't have face to face. Now look at me. How many times do you think I tell an African to mind his business here in Chicago on the street? I told him one time, mind your business. Because you got no say-so in Chicago. You're a visitor. I respect you. You're a black brother. I protect you as a visitor. But you got to act like a visitor. You can't act like an op. That's on you. But when ICE come and throw you out, don't be crying to me if you're hating on me and you don't want to see me get my reparations. Bye. It's real simple. So we're going to talk about it. Y'all got to be firm. Listen, reparations is something we're trying to get from the American government and American businesses and European businesses. It's not nothing we're trying to get from Africans or Caribbeans. So I'm trying to figure out how you going to get reparations talking to somebody that don't have your money. I don't agree with that. The more we're talking to Africans and Caribbeans, the less we're talking to white America and the businesses that exploited us for the reparations. Does that make any sense to be discussing reparations with somebody that don't owe you the money? No. Now, in terms of delineation, what Tariq is doing makes sense because he's pushing delineation and he's leaving it up to us to deal with the reparations part while he fight the battle of delineation. So that's why he's going back and forth with the Africans, because he's pushing that we're delineating. But you got to distinguish, what are you pushing? Are you pushing delineating or are you pushing reparations? And if there's 1,000 of us, we don't need 900 to push delineation. We need so many to push delineation, but we need somebody to push reparations. And too many of y'all are arguing over delineation and who's fighting for the reparations. Because the conversation about delineation only came up over reparations. So don't put that before reparations when reparations was first. And then we said we got to delineate and we got to trace our lineage to get our reparations. And then we began to separate ourselves and look how all these black people come over here and exploit us and take jobs from us and don't like us. All of that was a discussion behind reparations. So I mean, if these people owe you money and these people don't, which one you gonna argue with? You're gonna battle the ones that owe us money. And the American government and the businesses are getting a pass because all the black Americans, you just want to argue with Caribbeans and Africans, which is some more like how black people function around the world. You're really good with attacking each other. All in Africa, they're really good with attacking each other. All in Chicago, all in Detroit, all in California. We're really good at attacking each other. But we're horrible when it comes to standing on other people that do us wrong. I think too much arguing with Africans and Caribbeans is coward. It looks like you're scared of the people that enslaved you. That's what it looks like to me. It looks like you're scared of them, so you're picking a soft target. That's not going to get us our reparations. I'm not arguing with no African. Listen, let's say we're in Chicago. Tom, who's a white dude, owe me $5,000. Jumbo, who's a Nigerian, don't owe me nothing. Which one should I be hollering at? The Nigerian that don't owe me nothing, or Tom that owe me 5 racks? Because I'm confused. Because I'm trying to holler at Tom. Now, if I'm talking about Tom to give me my 5 racks and the Nigerian get in the way of that conversation, here in Chicago, he'd have to run the 5 racks or shut up. So if the Nigerian interrupt me while I'm talking to Tom about my 5,000, all of that dark energy that I got for Tom, I'm going to put on the Nigerian, and he's going to have to run my money, or he's going to have to run. Run or run my bread. Since you talking, do you got my 5,000? And see, y'all playing too much. Y'all not keeping it a buck. So to all the Africans, if you ain't got our money, stay out the conversation. That's up to them to go get it. I don't give a damn. If they stole money from Africa and India, then Africa and India got to go get it. It don't got nothing to do with me. And I don't give a damn about the British or nothing paying nothing. I want my money from the companies that had us in slavery and the actual companies that did it. I'm not doing no weird stuff, bro. Don't come over here with no weird anything. What's your name? Toby? Right. That's all I need to know. Trolling. We ain't doing none of that, okay? It's a block party over here. So if you don't come over here making no sense, I'm going to get you out of here. I don't care who you are. You're not coming over here interfering in our conversation all over the place. We're not doing none of that. As a matter of fact, don't type too much because you're supposed to be over here to listen to me. Okay, well, listen. Come back in 30 minutes. Yeah, come back in 30 minutes. Oh, no, none of them other people. I don't really play like that. And I'm trying to show these other brothers and sisters what they need to do. Now, let's start this off the right way. Who owes us money?
13 corporations that profited from slavery.
Hold on. Who owes us money when it comes to reparations? Let's start there. Who should we be talking to about this?
This is 13 corporations that profited from slavery. So here we go. Number 1, J.P. Morgan Chase. Between 1831 and 1865, 2 predecessor banks, Citizens Bank and Canal Bank in Louisiana, accepted approximately 13,000 enslaved individuals as collateral on loans and took ownership of approximately 1,250 of them when the plantation owners defaulted on the loans. Number 2, New York Life. An insurance company sold insurance policies on enslaved Africans. Number 3, Wachovia. 2 historical predecessors owned enslaved Africans and accepted them as payment. Number 4, N.M. Rothschild and Sons Bank in London. Nathan Mayer Rothschild, the banking family's 19th century patriarch, made personal gains by using enslaved Africans as collateral in dealings with a slave owner. I have a list of this, so if I stumble, it's because I have a lot of chicken scratch. Number 4, Norfolk Southern offered slaveholders $180. That's $3,379 today. This article was written in 2013. So that's $3,379 today a piece for enslaved Africans they would rent to the railroad for 1 year. The Central Georgia, another company aligned with Norfolk Southern Line today, valued slaves at $31,303. Today that would be $663,033. Did I say that right? Yes. $663,033. Hopefully that came out right. Sounds weird. Number 5, U.S. Today found that their parent company, E.W. Scripps and Gannett, had links to the slave trade. Number 6, Fleet Boston evolved from an early financial institution. Providence Bank founded John Brown, who was a slave trader and owned ships used to transport enslaved Africans. The bank financed Brown's slave voyages and profited from them. Brown even reportedly helped charter what became Brown University. Number 7, CSX used slave labor to construct portions of U.S. rail lines under the political and legal system that was in place more than a century ago. 2 enslaved Africans were John Henry and Reuben. The record states they were to be returned clothed when they arrived to work for the company. Number 8, Canadian National Railway Company. The Mobile and Ohio, now part of Canadian National, valued their slaves lost to the war and emancipation at $199,691 on record. That amount is currently worth $2.2 million. Whew. Number 9, Brown Brothers Harriman, the oldest and largest private investment bank, founded 1818, owned hundreds of enslaved Africans and financed the cotton economy by lending millions to Southern planters, merchants, and cotton brokers. Number 10, Brooks Brothers, high-end suit retailer, got their start selling slave clothes to various slave traders in the 1800s. They got their start by selling slave clothes. Number 11, Barclays, British multinational banking and financial services company headquartered in London, has now conceded that companies brought over the years may have been involved in the slave trade. Number 12, Lehman Brothers. This business empire started in the slave trade. Quote from Joe Pelizzotto: "This is a sad part of our history or our heritage. We're deeply apologetic. It was a terrible thing. There's no one sitting in the United States in the year 2005, hopefully, who would ever in a million years defend the practice." 13, Aetna. Aetna? Aetna. U.S. largest health insurer, apologized for selling policies in the 1850s that reimbursed slave owners for financial losses when the enslaved Africans they owned died. Aetna has long acknowledged that for several years shortly after its founding in 1853, that the company may have insured the lives of slaves. A few other corporations, companies that profited from slavery: Princeton, Harvard Law School, Tiffany & Co., Bank of America, Yale University, and Wells Fargo.
So there you have it. Just to name a few. So there's not a lot of confusion about reparations. It's real simple. If you're getting reparations for the abuse, the United States government owes some money, and the work you done, you trace back who made the money from the free labor. So all this pretending that nobody knows what to do is false. Whoever benefited from the labor and didn't pay the slaves, it's not that difficult. Who ended up with all the cotton? Who ended up with all the tobacco? Who ended up with all the sugar? Who benefited from the free labor? That's not hard to trace. That's easy. So much of this fake confusion is just that. And FBA's got to stop falling for that and got to stop getting in these unnecessary arguments that are definitely designed to be a distraction. You see how fast somebody came over here trying to say they're supposed to get reparations? That was an intentional distraction that I didn't go for. That's all it was, a block. You got to do it like I do it. We already know who owes. Whoever made all this money. You see all this cotton that was shipped up north? All right. This went to clothing industries and everybody, sheets, pillowcases, and all that. And we didn't get paid. So it's not difficult to find out who owes. They've done all type of stuff to hide who owes. They've even hid big company that's got a whole logo, but it's very strange how the company is not listed as a company, but they have a logo for the cotton industry. But some kind of way, it's not really a business, but it has a logo. This is to protect the money that this industry owes. And with the right lawyers, we can find out who these people are and make them pay. Because they have offices. Whoever has this logo has an office and have our money. Right? So what we're talking about, though, is the confusion over lineage and delineating. I got to talk about this because somebody said, he says he's FBA, but he got a picture of an ankh. And this is showing you that people are not teaching anything because they are feeling like a belief system has something to do with reparations. And we're letting people say FBA too much. And by saying FBA, they can muddy up the conversation because they're not saying reparations. So one of the reasons there's so much confusion because you keep saying FBA, 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 and you're not saying reparations because reparations would get right to the point. Now, FBA is not the same as reparations. Reparations is what is owed, and FBA is who's owed. Two different conversations. Reparation is what is owed and who owes it. And FBA is who is it owed to? Who is the recipients of the debt? That's the difference. Nobody wants to talk about that. We can't stop talking about reparations. There's too much conversation on FBA to where people are coming in and not even realizing that FBA wants reparations. Without reparations, there would be no point to delineate. Delineating is based off of that. That's the birth of it, is just finding out who's who. They have to delineate to find out who to pay, right? So delineating is something like you got 50 people work for you. You got to pay them. You go into a room of 200 people. You got to find the 50 that you owe. You have to, in a way, delineate them, separate the ones that you owe from the ones you don't. Now, delineation go further than that because this includes our culture and everything we've done in this country. So it's not just reparation, there's more to it. But delineating without reparations is a coward because you don't let nobody rip you off and you don't get your money back. Now, if they rip you off because they have you under oppression and they rip off your daddy, you telling me when you get a big boy and you free, you're not going to go get your daddy's money? So now they ripped off our ancestors and they did it by force where our ancestors couldn't stand up and demand what they wanted. But you can. So now the question is, now that you're a free man, now that you're a free man and woman, why aren't you standing up from what they took from your people that put your people in a position to not pass down as much to you as they could pass down to their people and put you behind in the game where they stole from you and gave themselves all kind of loans and all kind of grants and all kind of funding and used you for free labor to get ahead. And then when you get older and time goes and you get into the future, they want to say you lazy. They want to pretend you behind on your own accord when the game was fixed. Like MLK said, they tell you to pull yourself up by your bootstraps, but you ain't even got no boots. They the only ones got boots on with bootstraps on it. So imagine a man put his boots on, you don't have no boots, and he tell you to pull yourself up by your bootstrap, and you ain't got no boots. And so there's people, the reason I'm talking about this, because you can see on my background, you can see the Ankh and you can see the pyramid, you can see the Coptic cross. So somebody said he says he's FBA, but he got an Ankh. We ain't teaching these people nothing. Nothing. Nothing at all. Because with reparations, we trying to get paid for what happened to us in slavery. But there's a history before slavery where you was a Native American or you was an African. So what they're doing is, because we're dealing with the 400 years of slavery, people want to say that's all you can deal with. You can't deal with your ancient history as a Native American or as somebody in ancient Kemet. Because they trying to act like it's either or, which is not, because technically you would be both. And just because you could trace yourself back to Africa 1,000 years ago, don't mean you don't got to pay me for what you did 400 years ago. Those are two different conversations. You still got to pay me for what you did 400 years ago, 300 years ago, 200 years ago. And people are mixing that up. On top of that, these symbols were global. These symbols were never just symbols that represent Africa. Because these symbols go back, way back. Okay? So somebody asked me, why my name Pharaoh El-Aton and all this. You need to go study. Why you want me to tell you? Go study. Go study. Because these symbols go back before Kemet. That's why I say your teachers ain't teaching you nothing. These ancient symbols go back before there was any continents. These symbols go back to the Pangea, before all this stuff split up. So when people see the Ankh, how you going to speak on something that's known to be all over the world? Asia, India, this symbol is everywhere, not just in Kemet. This is This don't mean Africa. This mean life. Who told you this mean Africa? Who told you this mean Egypt? This don't mean Egypt. This does not mean Egypt. This does not mean Egypt. This does not mean Hebrew Israelite. The Hebrew Israelites adapted it, but this is two pyramids, one upside down. This represents as it is above, so it is below. This is ancient. All these symbols is ancient. So just because you see these symbols in Kemet don't mean they're exclusive for Kemet. You got to go study. A Sarah or a Pharaoh is a king, just in a different language. That has nothing to do with Egypt. You got kings all over the world. That's like coming to America and you from South America, you see the number one, you say uno. And you tell them they can't say uno because that's South American. But uno mean one anywhere you go. It doesn't just mean one in South America, but if you say so. So you got to learn something. So these symbols have nothing to do with Kemet. These symbols was in Mu. These symbols were in Atlantis. And these symbols was on other planets. Because the beings that bought these symbols came from somewhere else. They don't even come from Earth. So I seen somebody say, may try to make a distinction between a Pan-African and FBA. Said, why is there Pan-Africans in the FBA museum? Call themselves a scholar. And I'm saying to myself, are you really serious? Are you asking why is a concept in a museum for lineage? Because when you follow your lineage, you can have any concept. You can be FBA. You can be FBA and be a Pan-African. The only conflict with an FBA Pan-African is a Pan-African still got to stand on reparations, which original Pan-Africans did and original Rastas did. When Dr. Umar said, don't give us reparations, he was not being a true Pan-African. This is a fact. Because true Pan-Africans teach repatriation, reparation, and rehabilitation. That's what's taught. Rehabilitate yourself. Get reparations for what happened to you and repatriate back to your original place. These are the facts. You notice you don't hear those three anymore. This is the real Pan-African statement. Rehabilitation, reparation, and repatriation. Fix yourself, get what's owed to you, and go to your place. And so what makes a person think that I can't get reparations from the United States and move to Africa? Who told you that? If you're a foundational Black American living in Africa and America say they're going to give us reparations, you need to come over and get your money. You living in Africa don't negate the fact that your relatives was in slavery and did not get paid. It's really not a lot. It has nothing to do with you being no Muslim. It has something to do with lineage. You can't say you can't be foundational Black American and a Muslim. That sounds crazy. Those are not the same thing. Like lineage has nothing to do with religion or beliefs or sociology. Lineage don't got nothing to do with that. So you'll say, well, why is there so much pushback against Pan-Africans? Because modern day Pan-Africans are fearmongers. And they push that we're going to fail here, so we need to run to Africa. And that's why Pan-Africanism today is horrible and dangerous. Because it doesn't push to be successful in return to Africa. It pushes to run to Africa like a coward. And that's why I didn't like Pan-Africanism, because if you can't fight for what you want here and stand up for your family here, what makes you think you're going to be able to stand up for them in Africa? Anywhere you go, you're going to have to stand up. So that's the problem with modern day Pan-Africanism. They teach run. And because they teach run to Africa, because they teach there's no other way for anything to happen unless we all run and like that, because they teach that, then they don't like reparations because they feel like reparations kills Pan-Africanism, because they know a lot of us, if we get money, we're going to buy homes here. We're not going to Africa. And then that kills the way they're pushing Pan-Africanism, because they're pushing a coward Pan-African. And the very people like Dr. Umar that push we need to go to Africa to do better won't never move over there. So if this is no good for us here and we need to be Pan-Africans, why he didn't open up his school in Africa? Why would he open up a school here that's going to keep him here? His school is not a Pan-African school. His school is a foundational Black American school, or a diaspora school in America. Because if he was a true Pan-African, he would only open up a school in Africa. Because the ultimate teachings of Pan-Africanism is return to the motherland. Period. Without that idea of return to the motherland, there's no purpose of Pan-Africanism. Pan-Africanism was born on Africans for the Africans, those at home and those abroad. Africa for the Africans. Go to Africa. Not build a school in the United States. That's not Pan-Africanism. And so lineage ain't got nothing to do with your beliefs. So somebody be like, somebody actually really said, he talked about the FBA and he got onks. It's like, wow, y'all confusing the people. So they think you can't be FBA and be a Muslim or be a Hebrew or be in the ancient Egypt and all that. They really believe that. So some brothers would say, well, brother, if you could trace your lineage back to Africa, why is you FBA? Let me ask you something. The people in Fiji, because we sent scouts to Fiji when I lived in Hawaii. So we sent scouts to Fiji, Micronesia, Melanesia, looking for the next places to go. And when the brother and sister went to Fiji, we came back with books, and it showed that the Fijians came from Kemet, what you call Egypt. That's where the Fijians came from. And the Fijians know they came from Kemet. But they identify as Fijians. They don't identify as Egyptians. Why? Because they've been in Fiji struggling and surviving and building their tribe in Fiji. So they are Fijians. They know their lineage goes all the way back in Fiji and then to Egypt, but they're only dealing with their lineage from when they got to Fiji till now. And that's what we're doing. We know our lineage could go into Native Americans and some African and who knows where in the world. But we're dealing with the 400 years over here. Foundational Black Americans, listen to me. Being a foundational Black American does not have nothing to do with your ancient history in Africa. It has something to do with your relatives that picked cotton and was abused and your children that don't know nothing but here. I have 6 children. They don't know nothing about no Africa. I don't know nothing about no Africa. My mama and daddy don't know nothing about Africa. My grandparents on both sides don't know anything about Africa. Technically, my home, lineage-wise, is Alabama. My mama and daddy is from Alabama. My grandparents on both sides are from Alabama. And I'm not going back way past 400 years of slavery all the way to Africa. So for you Pan-Africans, stop. Because I am a foundational Black American. And there's no Pan-African could tell me that 400 years in this country don't make you represent this country. You can't tell me that, especially when you're only 40 years old, 50 years old, 30 years old. What do you know about 400 years? So how could you be 30, 20, 40, 50, 60 and tell me that I need to represent Africa when we've been here 400 years and you only 40 years old? We've been here 400 years. This is who we are. How long we got to be here before this is who we are? And some of us been here longer than that. Some of our blood, because you have people that came from Kemet and West Africa that came over here many years ago, before Christopher Columbus. You got Moors and ancient people from Kemet and ancient people from Ethiopia and South Africa been over here. As a matter of fact, some white men put a boat together with no sail and left off the coast of West Africa. And the boat took the currents, no sail, and took them right to Brazil with no sail. So it's safe to say there was plenty West Africans in South America. Plenty. And those West Africans that end up in South America, they consider themselves Afro-Mexicans. They don't consider themselves Africans. They're Mexicans. They consider themselves the original Mexicans too. Yeah. They fought all the wars and everything. All they great generals and lieutenants in Mexico, they was black. They didn't give these people citizenship until about 6, 7 years ago. They've been out in Mexico all that time being mistreated. Yes, their bloodline might go all the way back to El Kevilan, but how you gonna tell them they don't represent Mexico? They represent Mexico at this point. You can't just overlook all the time that people been in a place to go in the place before. You can't overlook all the time the Fijians been in Fiji and take them all the way back to Africa. Look, I lived in Hawaii. Are the Hawaiians from Hawaii? No. No. The Hawaiians aren't from Hawaii. Not at all. Not at all. Hawaiians are not from Hawaii. But they claim Hawaii because that's the most recent place they've been. And they've been there a long time. What y'all know about they black king in Hawaii? King Kamehameha. Y'all know about Kamehameha? Kamehameha not from Hawaii. He came there. He came there. Okay? But they've been there a long time, so that's what they claim. That's what they claim. I hope y'all learning. The Polynesians took canoes and put them together and ran poles through, long poles. So it'd be like 6 canoes with poles through them. And by the poles going through it, it hook all 6 canoes together and put a sail on it. And what happens is it won't sink because there's 6 canoes. So they all got buoyancy. So you don't have to worry about one vessel getting too much water and sink because you got a bunch of vessels. And by putting those bamboo all the way across, that make it stay on the water. And they could sail, the Fijians sailed all the way from Egypt to Fiji. Because they hooked them together, right? And this is how they stayed afloat. I'm giving y'all some history lessons over here now. You understand? And this is how we sailed all over the world. You see this? You see it's 2. You see on your right? That's 2 big size canoes put together. Well, sometimes they would have 6, 10, all across, connected together. And that was really how they began to construct ships. It was never just one ship. It was 2 put together. Like this picture on your right. And that's where this came from, where they got the big rudder on the side that balance it when it's one. You see the picture on your right? So they got the canoe there, but they got this to balance it, and they got buoyancy on this piece on the long wood to your right. And see, they sitting up there riding. So they learned how to make it wide enough. You see how they learned how to put it together and stretch it out so it had buoyancy so it wouldn't sink. You know, you go out there, you see it much up close, and they don't have a lot of this stuff on here on Google. You got to actually be in Polynesia to see it. But sometimes it'd be 6 of them put together, 8 of them put together. And when you put it on the water, it's not going to sink. And that's how they went from continent to continent. But the point I'm making is they don't claim the ancient land like people want us to claim Africa. Everybody do the same thing foundational Black Americans do. They claim the land that they've been at for the last 400 years. That's theirs. Africa, this is ours. This is where I'm from. I'm not from Africa. I have blood from Africa. Yeah, they sail from East Africa, and they also sail from Atlantis. A lot of people came from Atlantis when it sunk. You got to go follow me, and we're going to get all into that with all these fake historians, right? You know, you want to really get some information. You know, go follow from Kemet to Chicago so that I could really bring you all up to par on some of the real ancient information. Okay. This is going to be popping off hopefully at the first of the year. If not January, February, depends on when, because I'm going to be leaving here and I'm going to be working from another city. But I am going to be doing this either here or from another city. So go subscribe to From Kemet to Chicago. I'm going to be talking about all that, straightening out a lot of false information about ancient history, because there's a lot of false information. And so the moral of the story I'm trying to tell you is that once you get so much blood in the soil and time, that's where you're from. And foundational Black Americans, you got to understand, you fought in the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, World War I, World War II, Vietnam, Desert Storm, Iraq, Grenada. This is where you're from. You respect ancient Africa because you know you got some blood from over there. Because as I said before, you know, you got 128 great grandparents. So out of that 128 people, you know somebody is from over there. You know somebody's a Native American, right? Always remember that, young people. When they start asking you, you're like, listen, I got 128 great grandparents. You got 4 grandparents. You got 8 great grandparents. So keep counting back. So you got all the different bloodlines. We know that. But your life and your land is here. This is where you did your work. Now, let's say I move to Africa and I have a baby in Africa, some babies in Africa, and them babies have some babies, and them babies have some babies, and them babies have some babies, and they end up being there 300-400 years. They would be Africans at that point because they've been there so long. Just like if you moved here from Africa, you and your wife from Nigeria, y'all have some children, and they be here. They have some children, and they have some children, and they have children. You look up 400 years from now, y'all here. You would be Americans. Because you can't be here no 400 years and not be. You would no longer be an African after being here that long. Every time you have another generation, you're getting further away from Africa. Because the only one that's a really African is the one that left Africa. Then when you have your children, yeah, they mommy and daddy left Africa, but they born here. So yes, they're Africans by lineage, but they're not really Africans socially. Then they have children that's going to be less Africans, less socially, and theirs and theirs and theirs. So you're trying to tell me 400 years over here from Africa, you're going to still be an African? No. None of them people 400 years later are going to have any type of African traditions or language. They ain't going to even look like the African that came over here. They're going to start looking different. One of them might have married a white woman. One of them might have married an Asian woman. One of them might have married a mixed woman, because we be marrying black women that's mixed. What y'all think all these light-skinned women are? So the moral of the story is don't mix lineage up with religion and stuff like that. You can be a Pan-African and be FBA. But the reason there's friction between Pan-Africans and FBA is because FBA Pan-Africans is cowards and won't stand up for reparations. And as far as I'm concerned, if you're a coward and you let somebody do your great-great-great-great-grandparents dirty, and if I was an African, you came over there and I found out you didn't stand up for what they did for your ancestors, I wouldn't want you over there. If you're a foundational Black American, if you was born in America, both of your parents, you grow up here, and you ain't standing up for reparations, you a coward. You don't deserve to go to Africa. How you going to set a role example for Africans to stand up for their reparations when you didn't stand up for yours? So let me get this straight. Europe don't owe Africa reparations. So imagine a foundational Black American going to Africa, and now the West Africans start asking the French for reparations. But when you was over here, you didn't ask for reparations. And if I'm a foundational Black American and I go to West Africa and the West Africans get reparations for the French, I don't get nothing for that reparations because I wasn't there when the French exploited them. I was over here. So if you really look at reparations, there's reparations worldwide. The Jamaicans supposed to get reparations from the British. The Haitians supposed to get reparations from the French. So how could you be a Pan-African, which is supposed to have a global mindset, and you don't know which Blacks get reparations from which Europeans? And so if Dr. Umar say, don't give us reparations because we're going to mess the money up, is that what he feel about the Haitians? Is that what he feel about the West Africans? That was anti-Pan-African, what he said, and definitely not revolutionary. That was a coward statement and a loser statement and somebody that's really not what they pretending they are. He's a pretender. So this why I got on a brother's case recently, because he pretended that he represents Black people and was shaking and shifting when it came to reparations, and didn't have all that general vibe when it comes to reparations, flopping around. Yeah, we all been done dirty by different people, but you're supposed to stand on who did you dirty. If you ain't standing, I don't got no respect for you. I don't got no respect for no Black American that don't stand up for reparations. To me, you're a coward. I tell the same stories. I was sitting up watching Yvette Carnell talking about American descendants of slaves, and she was talking about reparations. And I was at one of my other offices, and I had a desk, and I had this picture of my grandfather sitting there staring at me. And with my grandfather staring at me, I started thinking they did my grandfather dirty. So reparations to me is personal. Some of y'all too young, you ain't seen you ain't get a picture of your great-great-granddaddy, your great-great-grandmother. This is what I would advise all foundational Black Americans. Get the pictures of your people back in Alabama in the 1800s, early 1900s, and look at them, and I guarantee you want reparations. Because you're going to see they suffering. Look at this man. You see he got his tie on his shirt. You see how he's still trying to have some dignity. What does that tell you? That he was fighting to be treated like a man at a time when they didn't treat him like a man. And I could see my grandfather's pain, and I want the money they cheated him out of. And that ain't no conversation you really want to have with me about not getting reparations, because I'm going to get it's going to get kind of tense. I'm going to take it personal. Because you talk about me not getting what they took from my granddaddy. And I ain't no coward. And they going to pay me for what they did to mine. And I ain't running no Africa and leaving my granddaddy legacy over here like no punk. Because if you running to Africa, but you ain't standing on note over here, you ain't no black nothing. And you get anybody, I'll tell them to their face. You don't represent no type of revolutionary concept or nothing if you run and you ain't over here standing on reparation and you're a black man and your family was here, you're a coward. Period. And if you're a punk in America, you're going to be a punk in Africa. If you ain't standing on reparations, you're a coward. You going to let them people do your people like this? Look at this man. This is my granddad. This is my daddy. And they did my daddy dirty too. They did my daddy dirty too. Yeah, they did my daddy dirty. My daddy from Decatur, Alabama down there. They did my daddy dirty. I don't be want to talk to no young people that ain't talk to the old people. I don't even want to talk to you because you don't know nothing. You know, go talk to your older relatives and get the information before you get to running your mouth out here. On my soul. Go find out what you're talking about before you just get to chit-chatting. Go find out. Go do some research. Let me tell you something. I get heated. This is my daddy right here. That's me, my daddy, and my sister. Right there. You don't get it raw nowhere but here. Cause I know you like, dang, bro, why you getting heated? Bro, I used to go to Alabama every year since I was a baby. Since I was a baby, I've been going to Alabama every year. You understand? I was going to Alabama in the 60s when they unalived a brother down there. And when all that stuff was going on, you know, the girls that they firebombed the church, my mother went to school with them. All this stuff is personal to me. My mother went to school with them. And when they was down there unaliving people, we was down there. I've been going to Alabama since the 60s. I'm born in 58. I was in Alabama 1960, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66. Real talk. And I didn't sat down with my great grandfather on my mother's side. My mother's daddy, my granddaddy. This is my father's family. He the one in the middle at the top. The one in the white is the oldest. You know what they went through? My daddy, the baby, things started getting better for my daddy and my mama. But what you think my Uncle Richard here in the white, what you think he went through in these older women? What you think they really went through? So look, when my daddy was a little boy, he went to a store that's a store and a restaurant. And he walked in the front door. Well, the colors, the niggers, supposed to go in the back. So the white man grabbed my dad, he was a little boy, and and slung him up on him with a horse and had him and took him to my granddaddy's farm, some white men, with their guns. And they called my granddaddy out there and said, your son walked in the front of our building. My granddaddy had told him not to do that. And my granddaddy right here had to plead with them not to hurt my father and not to hurt him and his family. Because they was going to unalive my father for simply walking in the front door. These is facts. I don't want to hear nothing about no Africa. You don't even know nothing about your history here. Yeah, my daddy. And my daddy told me about how he would be down south. And he would see these white men ride by in they big Buicks. And he always wanted a Buick while he was out there working in the field. These is facts. Say no make-believe. These is all facts. This is my mother, right there in front of my sister. When my mother was a little girl, and she used to ride the bus to school, my uncle, which is her brother, was 2 years younger than her. My mother was a little bitty skinny girl. You know, the blacks had to go in the back. This is before Rosa Parks. And my mother used to have all her books, hold on with one hand, and she used to have to hold my uncle real tight while she's shaking. Because she said if my uncle accidentally bumped into a white person, they might take him off the bus and unalive him or beat him really bad. Like they did Emmett Till, lied on Emmett Till, said he bumped into that lady, touched that lady. So my mama, as a little girl, had to hold her younger brother and all her books and hold him and hold on with one hand every day to go to school to make sure he don't bump into no white person on there. She said it was horrifying. So let me ask you something. So when I was this age and I went to a Lutheran school, a mixed school with whites, what do you think my vibration was in the 70s? I looked like a punk because that's a tailor-made suit. What do you think my mentality was? My mentality was, pull it with me. That was my mentality. Pull it. Pull all that with me. That was my mentality. So I ain't just no dude talking. Yeah, I'm older now and all that. I understand all that. But I really, I've been through trauma and stuff on top of that and the streets. So you mix that revolution with the streets. You young brothers that's younger than me, let me tell you something. You can't just play with everybody. Because everybody ain't to play with. And I'm definitely not the one to play with. Because I've been through too much and seen too much. Too much. And so that's how I end up a revolutionary. That's how I started growing dreadlocks. That's how I was so militant. because I'm a Black Power baby. I'm born 1958. So when I'm a baby and I'm 5 years old and I'm starting to see the world, what I'm seeing in 1963, 64, 60, what am I seeing? What was life like? What was going on outside when I was 10 years old in 1968? What was my OGs like? Because my OGs is like Fred Hampton in them. Think about it. If I'm 10 years old in 1968, what was the OGs on? What y'all know about that? What y'all know about Gimme Five on the black hand side? What y'all know about Bing Bing, Bang Bang, Ungawa, Black Power? This stuff I'm learning at 8 years old. I don't even know what it means. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what it means, but I'm standing on it. You know what I'm saying? I didn't even know what that stuff means. I swear to God, I didn't know what it means. I didn't know what it meant. And how you think my daddy raised me? Knowing my daddy came from the South. What you think he raised me like? What you think his mentality was concerning me? When you consider all of that we had been through. How you think he raised me? What do you think the mentality was? They never said nothing. He didn't really say nothing. He just did it quietly. You know, every holiday, every Christmas, my birthday, guess what I always got for Christmas and my birthday? Put it in the chat. What my daddy bought me every Christmas and birthday since I was a baby. Put it in the chat. A gun. Since I was a baby. Look, I was 3 years old, right? My daddy bought me a gun. We lived in an apartment. That's before we got this house. My daddy bought me a gun. And I went to sleep one night. And I woke up and the gun was gone. Now I was 3 years old. I woke up with the gun was gone. And I was looking for the gun every day. So one day I was with my mother. I was like 30. And I said, Mom, whatever happened to my gun that time? Daddy bought me that gun. She said, boy, you still think about that gun? She said, when Randolph bought you that gun, you wouldn't put it down. She said you held it when you was eating your cereal. You held it when you was drinking your bottle. You held it when you went to sleep. And she said you was too attached to it. So she said, I went in there and you had it in the bed with you, sleeping with it, and I took it. Straight up. And she said, and you proving my point because you still remember that damn gun and you were number 2 or 3 years old. I said, are you kidding? She said, you still remember it, don't you? I said, hell yeah, I always wanted to have my gun. I wanted my gun. You know what I'm saying? Oh, my soul. I'm telling you the fact. And my daddy always bought like things to shoot to teach me how to shoot. Because you gotta understand, it wasn't for no revolutionary stuff. It was for self-defense, but you gotta understand, him and my granddaddy, they went hunting. They used to hunt for some of their food. So my daddy been shooting a gun since he was little and driving a tractor. And my daddy was in the military. My daddy was stationed in Germany right after World War II. He flew on a helicopter. They flew him over Dracula's castle. And then they transferred him to Korea. And when my daddy got back to the United States, they was all on the train. And my daddy said they was all on the train together. When he left America, it was all this racism. He said when he got back from the war, it was the end of the war, but when he got back out the military, he was on the train. And he said it was on the train and it was whites and blacks all together on the train. And my daddy said, shout out to Drew for the support. Much love, brother. My daddy said he was so excited, man, that he felt like now that he went to serve his country, he said he felt like the racism was over. You know what I'm saying? And it was black soldiers and white soldiers that fought together. They was on the train together. And my daddy said they was all on the train together in all the cars. And they said they was almost to town and the train stopped. And he said when the train stopped, the sergeant or lieutenant or whatever came and said, y'all got to sit in separate cars. And when my daddy told me the story, I could tell that incident snatched it almost snatched his soul out of his chest. I could tell that really hurt him. You know what I'm saying? I could tell it hurt him. Because before they pulled into town, they had to be back segregated. Real tough. And you don't think I want my reparations? You think reparations is a joke? See, if you was a black person and I'm talking about reparations, you was against it, I'd have to walk off. That's why you can't really talk to all us about reparations. Because like everybody not playing with you. Like some of us, man, you touching the nerve when you get to talking, especially when you're young and you don't know none of the history. And you try to tell me what they don't owe us when I seen it firsthand. I was in Alabama in the 60s. Oh yeah, they owe you. You just don't know nothing. Ain't nobody taught you nothing. Your daddy didn't teach you nothing. Your granddaddy didn't teach you nothing. Because if your older relatives would have talked to you, you wouldn't be talking crazy like that. I can tell you this, though. I can guarantee you. If you take young brothers in their 30s, I can tell you that the ones from down south, they all want reparations. It's only you northerners don't. But I guarantee you, 98% of the young black men down south, I bet you they want reparations. They banned me off they deleted my page off TikTok. I just got me monetized again here. They be demonetizing me. They demonetized me over here for a whole year. I didn't make no money over here for a year. So when y'all see me and you wonder why I can't go all out, because I'm number one. I wasn't trying to really dog set him, but he really not me though. For real. In no kind of way. Not at all. He not as mean as me, for sure. Uh-uh. And he ain't seen what I seen. He young. He ain't seen what I seen. He ain't hear it firsthand. He got it second and third hand. And I'm in Decatur, Birmingham, Uniontown in the 60s. Back when our parents, they would leave Chicago like 4 in the morning because they got to be to Louisville, Kentucky or Nashville, Tennessee by 3 or 4 in the evening. They can't get caught out there at night. So they leave Chicago like 4 in the morning because they ain't got to go through no sundown towns and the sun going to be up as soon as they hit the highway. They pack chicken and food and stuff. They only stop at standard gas stations and they only slept at Holiday Inns. I didn't know why till I got older and went back and looked at the history because they didn't tell us nothing. So we wasn't scared. So they didn't scare me and my sister. We thought everything was peachy keen. But looking back, I remember my mother and grandma and my dad pulling over and my mama and my granny go pee over in the bushes. And I remember one time I said to my mom, "Oh, Ma, you peeing in the bushes?" And she said, "Everybody got an ass, boy. Ain't no big deal." They didn't seen an ass before. But really, the real reason they was peeing in the bushes, because if they get off that highway and try to go somewhere to pee, they might not never get back on that highway. You can't pull over and go to no gas station. Certain gas stations when black men would go, right? And you get $10 worth of gas and you give the white gas dude $20, he put it in his pocket. He don't give you no change. And he might call the sheriff's on you and you might get pulled over the road. So you can't just pull over anywhere. You can't just pull over anywhere. So for y'all talking against reparations and stuff, I don't like you. You know, so that's why I went off on the brother. Because he should just shut up and he should do his job to teach y'all some history. All that old African history, man, but you ain't teaching us, our people the more recent history. That's bogus. Our people don't even know this history. And you going all the way back to ancient Egypt and back to ancient Israel, but your people don't even know the history of what's going on in America now. Why our people don't know the history and what we've been through. You know, this stuff ain't been no joke. This ain't no joke. It ain't nothing changed. Y'all think people like you? That same energy is still out here. The same energy. The same energy is out here. You know, you young brothers better not go to sleep out here. I'm going to tell you straight up. Y'all better not go to sleep. I tell you that. Ain't no joke out here. We used to have to travel with a book just to know where to pull over, where we could eat at, and all that. That's your lineage. You know, one of the biggest mistakes when I was growing up with history is they went too far back. They went too far back with the history. And when you go far back with the history, You still don't know nothing. You still don't know nothing. Ancient history don't teach you nothing because it's too far back and it don't connect you with nothing. You ain't connected. So that's since I've been over here, I've been telling people more recent history. I be talking about what was going on in the 60s, in the 70s, in the 80s, in the 50s, in the 40s. I haven't been talking a whole lot about way, way back because that's not valuable to you all. The most valuable history to you is the history 50 and 60 years back in your life. That's the history you need to know. That's the history you need to know. If I had to choose between teaching my children history in ancient Kemet or history in the civil rights era in the 50s and the 40s, I'd teach them history in the 50s and the 40s. That's what I would teach them. I wouldn't. That other stuff is irrelevant. 100% irrelevant. That other stuff is absolutely irrelevant. Worthless. If you don't know this history. If you don't know this history, you're walking around here blind. Because it's the history closer to your life that's value, that show you how to move in this world. History of ancient Abyssinia ain't gonna do nothing for you. You would do better knowing history about the 20s, 1910, 1817, 1910, 1920, 1930, 1940s, 1950s, 1960s, 1970s. That would be better history. 2000s, if you're young. Like if you're born in 2010, you really need to know about the 90s or you blind. I don't want y'all to think I just don't be dealing with old history. It's the reason I don't do that. It's not no value to y'all. That's why I don't talk about it a lot. I do every now and then, but it has no value to you. It's not gonna help you. For you to know where you at, you gotta know your place in history. You gotta know the footsteps right before you. Footsteps way back then is irrelevant. You need to know what led up to this point. If you don't know nothing about the riots in LA over Rodney King, you can't understand George Floyd. You can't. You're going to be in the dark. So it's like reparations ain't no joke. We won't, that's not no joke. Don't you allow nobody to speak bad about reparations or bad about FBA or ADOS. They need to have respect. They need to have respect. And I don't want nobody to tell us we all won, because in Africa, they got over 3,000 different tribes. Ain't nobody telling them to be one. All that's phony. Okay? You see Pan-Africans always trying to tell us we need to unite. Why don't they go over there and tell that 3,000 tribes that? Why don't they go to Ethiopia and tell the Aroma and Amara and the Tigrayans that? Why don't they go to Nigeria and tell them they warring in Nigeria right now? No, they want to tell us unity. When it ain't no unity nowhere in Africa. That's why Pan-Africans ain't no good. Because when you get a belief system, you start trying to protect the belief system so you don't tell the truth. You ain't going to tell the truth because you're trying to protect your belief system. And then when your belief system get holes in it, you don't want to tell it. Let me give a perfect example. Y'all watch me. You see how many times I criticize Rasta? And everybody know I was a young Rasta. But what you want me to do? You want me to lie? I'm supposed to hide the information?